Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another historic church in Shropshire. This is St John the Evangelist, Newcastle upon Clun. It opened and consecrated in 1849. It's a very good example of the period. You can see this nice roof structure above me. The roof screen is later, of course, but the shallow chancel is typical of this period, middle part of the 19th century and of course the early part of the 19th century, when there's a revival of Gothic styles, but there isn't yet this idea we have to imitate a medieval parish church. And so instead you get buildings that are built for the way the Book of Common Prayer is used at the time, the way the liturgy is celebrated, rather than being designed because this is how they did things in the Middle Ages. Now, again, to be fair to the people like the Cambridge Canon Society who come along and say it needs to be more like the Middle Ages, these people wanted to return to the medieval style of liturgy. They wanted more ceremonial, and they wanted to return to this idea of the mystery of the Eucharist. Interesting enough, in a way that even the Roman Catholic Church, following the Reformation, following the Council of Trent, moves away from, so that post-Tridentine, or otherwise known Tridentine Catholic churches, will also have these shallow chancels designed so that the people can see. There's an end to the rood screen that shuts out the people from seeing the Mass. Now here, of course, it's not the Mass, it is the communion according to the Book of Common Prayer. So let's have a look around this building and see both the original features and what has been changed since 1849. As usual then, we start at the back looking east, and you can see the original pine benches and pulpit, and then that screen has been put in to create a bigger chancel and essentially block off the last bay of the nave. The font is original, relatively small. It's not your full-on bird bath, but it hasn't quite returned to the full medieval size that you'll find later on. By the door is a small and rather unobtrusive war memorial. There are 5 names for the First World War, only 1 for the Second, because of course in Britain, as in France as well, and even more so in France, the First World War is much more destructive than the Second. The screen here, it looks as though there may have been some idea about having an organ screen, having the organ on top, but there's no gallery there, and there's just a single bell, the ding-dongs. Vestry door, of course, and these benches. We think of them as pews, but at the time they'd be thought of as benches. A pew would be what we think today is a box pew. The screen is of dark wood, with the eagle emblem of St John above the central opening. The pine pulpit would originally have been painted, however, or varnished to resemble oak. However, fashions have changed, and now it's this plain pine. There are a few stained glass windows. There's one in the chancel that's original, and the rest are later, of varying dates. The organ is located in the chancel area. You can see these choir stalls are later than the benches, and they are similar in style to the screen, although they bear the date of 1918, so they're essentially war memorial. The shallow chancel, because it's just a place for people to take communion. Just the one step, and the one step is because, of course, in the Church of England, people take communion kneeling on that one step. So it's all as is needed by the way the BCP, the Book of Common Prayer, was done at the time. The window here with the Apostle Peter, the Good Shepherd, and the Apostle John, or John the Evangelist, is original and has been here since the church was opened. It's a great example of that period, the 1840s, 1850s, and we turn around to look west. And so that is the very simple interior here. It's very much a church that's built with the recognition that if the Church of England is going to even attempt to retain the common people, they're going to have more church buildings closer to where people live. What has since happened in the 20th century, and certainly in the 21st century, is a decay of church attendance means that some of the smaller buildings, not so much a place like this, but some of the smaller buildings and buildings that are closer to big towns, there's now the, do we need this? But thankfully not here yet. Well, let's go outside. And so now we are outside here at Newcastle. You can see behind me this early Victorian church in all its splendour. In some respects it's quite similar to what we saw at Maidstone, only bigger. It's like someone has taken the design for the rebuilding of Maidstone and gone, well, that was a very good design, let's just make it bigger. Whether they have or not is another matter. It is very, very typical. We've seen it in Moor, we've seen it in Maidstone. This very typical use of the early English, early pointed style of architecture, because it's relatively cheap to do and it looks nice. And it's not something that, it is something that's cheap, but it's not the cheap and nasty, it's the cheap and nice. So we'll have a look around the outside and see what we can see. And so here we go. See, we have the little bell turret now. It's become a turret, and we've got the flagpole on the church. I've never seen a flag flying from it. It's probably unsafe by now. And the setting is wonderful. There's the valley, there's the river Clun on the bottom. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. I'm reliably informed it's something along the lines of Clun, rather than being pronounced as Welsh, because the Welsh name is actually different. But being on the Welsh border, there's a lot of Welsh sounding and Welsh looking names. You can see the lychgate over there, lychgate roof. That's such a nice lychgate. It has a sort of revolving gate on it, so we shall go and have a look at that. So the door, the big two-part door. Why are they so tall? Well, they're tall to be impressive, first of all, and they're tall so ladies with big tall hats can go in. How about that? But they're not tall because giants, because that would be silly. Obviously, the internet loves silly, but nevertheless. So here's this beautiful lychgate. It's 1880s, and you look at that. The central post is because, as I say, that is it's not fully revolving, but it swings from, pivots around that central post. So doors either side, and then you can see there's sheds, storage either side. There's the east end. Now we will brave the north side. I do have the trousers for it. Even on this hot day, because quite often they don't mow, and the idea is that it makes for a wildlife haven. But you can just see there, I won't go all the way around, but you can just see there the vestry. And again, beautiful setting. Traditional farm buildings, traditional farm, and you can see farms there in the valley and up on the hills. Cows in the valley and sheep on the hills. And so swing slowly back. There it is, and John the Evangelist, Newcastle on Clun. So there you have it, St John's at Newcastle upon Clun. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.